going on, y'all? Paul the Barbarian here. Having a sit down. I'm going to do this little, we're going to do a couple videos. New steps to take in the new world, because America, North America is the new world by everybody else's standards. And we've only been doing this, we've only been steel fighting for so long. And I'm sitting down with Brett Skinner out of Texas, out of the Warlord Academy. Say hello, Brett.
Hey guys, like I said, I'm Brett Skinner. I am the head coach of Warlord Combat Academy and a member of the Dallas Warlords.
And Brett has been bringing in a lot of different techniques and doing some different things and trying to push the sport in a better direction for the United States. You're extremely effective on the field. You have shown that in many different ways. Like Carnage was just you putting on a clinic of putting people on the ground. It was very fun to watch. And I'm like, okay, I think that's what we all kind of need to be doing. I compare how you fight. I watch you fight, and then I watch Bear Paw. I watch Anya Barra. I watch all of those guys, and I'm like, you're doing some of the things that they're doing, and they're the ones that are top in the world. And I'm like,
well, I would hope so, and some of that is that's not by accident. I can't tell you how much time I spend watching them fight. And like, if you talk to my teammates, I will clip over and over again different stuff. And some of the stuff that I bring to practice is stuff that I learned from, like, judo, or stuff that I'm actually getting taught. Some of it is like, I just watched this move happen 6 different times. We have never done this before.
Yep.
We're about to figure out how to do this.
Yep. Like, hey, this is seemingly efficient because they just won a tournament on that move.
Yeah. In fact, the most recent one is there's this figure 4 leg lock that they do while facing the person. So it's a one-on-one. They will hook the leg, draw it up under them, and then basically pull the guy underneath them so they're laying down over them.
It's weird.
And it's weird. And this last tournament, though, the one that was the Bear
Cup, the Iron Bear or whatever it was, yeah.
I had seen it once or twice before then, and we went over it one time in practice. Then that tournament came along, and I swear I saw it 4 times around from the best teams in the world. And I was like, all right, guys, we're completely going back to this.
We need this.
We're going to spend a fucking month working on this because we don't have this at all, and apparently it's real good.
Yeah. Alex did a breakdown of the Bear Cup, and he's like, watch this guy's leg. It's like a tentacle, and it wraps all the way around, goes to that figure 4, and he pulls the guy right over, and he just throws him right on the ground. I'm like, yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. It's wild.
So realistically, in this sport, we're all attempting to be athletes, right? Like having athleticism, being in good shape, working out, doing the thing, that's all done on your own time, and that's all pretty straightforward. Like going and doing night fit, going and doing your different workouts, your HIIT workouts, the high intensity interval trainings, all of those kinds of things build better fighters because they make you more able to fight longer and be more efficient. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The way Craig says it, and I kind of like it, and I know he's quoting someone else, but if you were a cup, the skills are what fills you. Physical fitness makes you a bigger cup. Yes. So you can, so many more skills are available to you. Your ceiling is so much higher as you become more and more physically fit. Becoming physically fit doesn't do it on its own.
No.
But it is massively important, especially at the higher levels.
It definitely is, especially when you're like, okay, we have to fight, like, we drew 2 rounds, we still need to have the ass to go and do another round to at least win the match, kind of thing. But the other half to that, and I think what I'm trying to get at for this video is what skills we should be pushing for, what more of technique that we should be looking at in different ways we can pull. We can pull different things from different sports and different martial arts and everything else like that to make us more efficient. It's not that we're not violent. It's not that we're not, like, swinging axes, punching people in the face and doing the thing. Doesn't matter. Efficiency. I want efficiency.
Yes. And there's no doubt. Obviously, right now, I'm very, very heavily biased that I think grappling is the most important skill in this sport. I think I often describe it as like we're kind of like the early days of MMA, where if you have someone who knows how to strike well and you have someone who knows how to grapple well, the grappler is going to win every time. If you know 2 people who know how to grapple and one of them also knows how to strike, striking suddenly becomes very important.
Yes. Well, you notice that 80% of our fights come down to a grapple.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
who'd have fucking thunk that like, hey, trying to throw a guy to a ground, nobody like everybody's not really great at hacking people down. Like nobody can make people quit immediately. There's very few people that can do that. Simon and Jay and everybody else like that. And if you have a really good position, you can chop a dude right in the gap and he sits down because you don't want to get hit again.
Yeah,
But the easiest way, like the lowest skill, is grabbing a hold of a guy and pulling him down and trying to yank him around one way or another like that. But it's all inefficient, and it's all
no doubt.
usually ending with a suicide.
Yes, yeah, that does happen far too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, even when you talk about someone like Simon hitting someone with an axe, devastating, right?
Yeah.
You look at someone like that and you say, like, how can striking not be important? But even then, most of the time, it starts with him throwing someone on the ground, and now he's free to find someone to
He's
hit.
also an orc.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
he's an orc. He's wider. He's wide as shit. Like he's 6 inches wider than me, and I'm a pretty big guy.
He is mad. I fought him in an axe fight once, and every time we got in a grapple, like wherever he moved, I would just move to. It was like there was no. I could not resist. I'm like, God,
You don't have the
damn, you're big.
resistance there.
Yes, yes.
And I'm not saying that weapon strikes aren't useful or anything else like that. They are very much the cherry on top of the pie kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Just because naturally everybody tries to go for that grapple. And you see it in high-end European fighting is that mostly it's a grappling match, and nobody likes watching grappling matches. They think it's boring. I'm like, no, you're just ignorant to the actual idea that there's more higher learning happening in that grapple than you realize.
Absolutely. Again, to go back to the MMA thing, forever, once the match or like the fight went to the ground, everyone was like, oh, great, it's just two people hugging on the ground.
Wrestling.
Yeah, and now as the fans become more educated, as people watching it become more educated, they realize there's a lot of shit happening there, and it can be really exciting once you know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely where I'm seeing things that we need to work on is in that grapple. I've been one proponent that make sure that your grapple is not just the standard hug or the like both arms over top. I want you to go to the Muay Thai clinch and get the elbow inside the chest so you can remove yourself from the grapple so that when you do take them down, they don't drag you down with you.
Yeah, you can remove yourself from the grapple, and that elbow, people don't realize that is your defense. If you are over like this, they are also directly to your body. There's nothing separating you. This elbow in is what stops them from being able to close on you and do their throw. Like that's a very important defensive position as well as using it for offense.
Maintaining distance while being close.
Absolutely.
What do you specifically think we should be pulling in?
So my big two are wrestling and judo. I think Sambo is essentially just it's essentially just Russian judo.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is, Sambo also has a lot more of standing technique. Judo has a lot of standing technique, but it also all very, very much is about grabbing the gi. In most of the encounters, you have to deal with the gi. We're not saying that judo by itself is the end all be all. You have to adapt it and change it like every other fighting sport. You have to adapt and change to make it better.
Absolutely, and significantly. And like, if you don't have a gi, well, right away, half the stuff you have to make at least some modification. Now, that modification sometimes is really simple. It's like, okay, well, I throw this from like that Muay Thai plum or something like that. But almost nothing is direct one for one.
No.
So there will always be little modifications. But if you go into it knowing that, like, I'm learning the technique behind this and like the reasoning behind it, then it's very easy to start transferring stuff over.
I was standing around talking with a judo instructor, and we were talking about some things, and I was trying to convince him to come and teach a class. I'm like, look, I want you to take a week, watch some video, think about how you can take some of your moves and change them, and see what you can do with it. He came back to me and he's like, I don't feel comfortable teaching you a class on this because I haven't spent enough time looking at this. I'm going to look at it more, but I'm going to make two suggestions. Like where your foot placement is very important in judo. Like where you put your foot, how you move your leg, put it across somebody, and how you move the head. Now, our helmets make our heads they're very strong, whatever. The helmet also makes it a very good handle because it makes our head easier to go in one direction or another direction.
Yes.
And head control is major on breaking the posture, if you want to speak to that.
So, I mean, you're dead on. So in judo, there's the idea of Kazushi. Kazushi is just the Japanese word for the unbalancing, and that basically means like, if you just stand with your in a good stance with your butt down, I can't throw you from there.
No.
Like the only way I can throw you is by getting you to begin to lean. Right. Once you're off balance, the throw becomes extremely easy, and the more off balance I make you, the more effortless the throw becomes, right? So if I get you a little off balance, I might be able to finish that throw with a bit of a fight, but I still get it. If I get you way off balance, you're just going over.
You're pushing the guy over with the lightest push, and you're walking away from it without any like worry about the guy getting you.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of different ways to break balance, but one of the first you learn, easiest and most prevalent, like even at the highest level, it's not like it goes away once you get upper level, is head manipulation, right? If I'm trying to hit a sweep or a throw, if I can get your head moving past your body the way I want it to go, it becomes way harder for you to resist whatever I'm trying to do. And like you said, probably doubly so when we have a helmet on.
That helmet, like that fucking thing, if somebody gets a hold of the tip of that thing and they pull my head to the side, my body has to follow that because like it's attached to me for one. For two, it's here's the other thing. When you use a lever, I like lifting with levers. It's a very good saying. But when you're using a lever, you don't grab the lever down here on the pivot point. You grab the lever at the very end so you have the most amount of strength and leverage. The helmet, our head, is the furthest point on the lever of our body that you can grab. If you think about the spine as a lever, grabbing a part of that and getting a hold of that and pulling it one way, that's the least amount of resistance you can run into, is moving that head.
And you can do that with actually multiple points. One of the more common ones is the chin, right? And it's the exact same sort of thing. If I want to push your head over, if I push the center of your head, like around that ear or something, it's kind of easy for you to resist. If I put instead just position at the chin, it becomes way harder for you to resist that because it is farther away from, your point of stability. So I get extra leverage. It works on slightly weaker muscles. And again, it's a great way to get that head moving.
Yeah. I've always been a proponent of if somebody's got a hold of my head or my neck, if I can create any kind of distance, I bring my hand up and I bring it underneath the chin and it's a slow uppercut. But I just drive my hand up and across their chest and into the bottom part of their chin of their helmet, and I pick it up and turn it to the side, and they're like, I don't like this, and they'll try to start fighting you, but they'll realize that they can't actually fight the amount of leverage I have because I'm pressed against their chest.
Yeah, it's one of the best ways to break someone's grip, especially when they're going into that, like, I call it the suicide grip, but anytime you're going two hands on axe with axe around, like that's one of the things you can do is start really twisting that head backwards. And a lot of times they'll fight for a little bit and then they'll let go to try to get your hand off.
Yeah. And like, so we're looking at head control. We're trying to manipulate the body and move the body in that direction. I see a lot of people going to an underhook. Like that really deep underhook that you can get. And it is a power of position. It is a position of power, but it also allows them to get an underhook, an overhook, or an underhook on you as well.
So I prefer the underhook. I mean, I'm one of those people. I love the underhook over head control or the overhook.
You have a low center of gravity and you're wide.
Well, that's fair. But my big thing is I go for a lot of judo throws, and having an underhook, it is so much easier for me to pull your body and you not to be able to slip. So I can throw much more of my body into like a judo style throw to get you off balance to create that Kazushi. If I'm going for a turning throw, if I'm not going to try to throw you the other way, a lot of times I do prefer head control, though I still will work from underhook. But that's really just a matter of not liking how often you can sometimes slip off of people's helmets. If I get the underhook, I don't think I'm going to slip. But there are very much risks of the underhook. One, you give them your head. That one doesn't bother me as much just because I fight from it a lot. The one that'll really bother me is sometimes if the person's real stable, they can clamp down over your hand and sit back and then just be like, this is where you are for a while.
Yeah.
And then that can be a very irritating fight to deal with.
If they go like, that's my only problem with going to the underhook, is like it makes it very easy for you to get trapped. Because
Yes.
that underhook is a very solid hook. It's a very solid grip that you have there on their body. But then if they just clamp their arm over top of it, they're like, oh, fuck, now I'm just stuck on my bicep. That's also they've got me at the bicep, because that's usually where your underhook ends in the armpit, is that on the bicep. So now
Yes.
they've got you really strong. You can't get away with that really easy. Plus, our armor gets in the way and stops us from unhooking nearly as easily.
And it can be even worse in HMB, where there's a chance that they can hook down over your arm, over the rail and under the rail. And that position is like
the worst.
The next best thing to impossible to get out of. Like, you can, it's fucking hard.
And then they have your arm in an anvil. Your arm and your shoulder are now the anvil on top of the list.
Yes.
So
there's definite downsides to go into an underhook. I will tell you that, like, but if I plan on throwing and I get to choose, I'd like to throw from an underhook.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to play
at that point in time. You're also in an underhook. You have your strength underneath, like as much underneath their center of gravity, or in an ability to manipulate the center of gravity as much as humanly possible. You having that underhook, like a lot of our weight is sitting up here. Like,
yes.
Armor brings our center of gravity up very high, and you're dealing with a lot of weight here on your arms, on your head, everything else like that. So once you get that weight moving with that little bit of a twitch of your underhook, and then you just have to put a leg right in front of him and step, you're like, donezo.
Yes. Yep.
I think so. We're getting into the minutia a bit here, but now we're gonna do a live stream, Brett, and we're gonna talk. Okay. I'll let you go into the minutia like crazy. It'll be fun.
I'm totally down. I'm totally down.
So we're looking at judo. Let's get away from the hugs. I'm guessing you're agreeing with that.
So I tell my guys, like, I don't ever want to see you double hand your axe behind them. Mm-hmm. There are reasons to do it, but honestly, if you can give me the reason, if you can tell me the actual reason you want to do it, then you're probably good enough to do it. Questionably, for the most part, just quit doing it. And there's multiple things about this. Is 2 points of control is so strong in being able to use a throw. Mm-hmm. Like, if I just grab your head like this and try to pull you, I have no control over your hips, which is really actually what I need to get unbalanced if I want to throw. Like, the completion of a throw is almost always taking your feet out from under you, which is generally, I'm looking to get your hips twisted so that you can't get them back under, or something along those lines. And it's difficult to do from a single point.
Yes. If anybody wants to go and look, I'll put a couple of links in the description of different judo techniques. If Brett, you have any suggestions, like people like judo masters showing how to do things, you'll notice that half the time when they throw a leg into follow, like do the throw, they've got the upper control. They then throw a leg in front of one of their legs. You'll see that their hip pops into their hip, and you'll see them actually pop their ass into their hip. And it'll break the position of the hip, and it'll make the throw that much easier and that much more effortless.
Yeah. I do. Let me amend one thing that I said. I should say that double hook is very hard to get their hips out in a way that does not also make you go down as well.
Yes.
Because there are plenty of ways, if you're fine with falling with them, that you can do it. But what normally happens is the person's like, all right, here's my big move now. And then we just both collapse together. Yeah. Which is why I call it suicide hug.
Yeah, it's because like the other guy's able to grab a hold of you at the same time, and if you're throwing him, his weight's gonna follow through. You might have the throw perfectly fucking fine. You might be great on the throw, but his weight is carrying him, and he has a grip on you. If he has any way to grab a hold of you and have a firm grip, he will take you down with you, because you are not strong enough to catch yourself from his weight falling. Just that pendulum of force is going to take you down. There's a lot of physics involved with this. Nobody thinks that this takes all this much smarts. It's just thugs hitting each other and hugging and shit. I'm like, no, there's a lot of physics involved, guys, that I don't like thinking about because it makes my brain hurt. But it keeps me from getting hurt when I understand the amount of physics. And I think that's one thing that people need to realize. Like, you've become an athlete. You've put yourself in this position where you've gotten yourself in shape. You've got your armor. You're doing the thing. Like, what skills do I go to from there? Or I've been fighting for 2 years and I'm doing the same stuff and I'm plateauing. I'm not doing any better than I already have. You have to look outside the box. Um, we're trying to bring judo into the box to make it more normal for people to be doing, like, to training and doing things with judo, but the sport's so young and so new, you have to pull things from everywhere to try and learn better.
Yeah, and I think there's judo specifically. When you go to the videos, like when you go to the competitions, so often the person throwing falls down with the person.
Hmm.
If you don't actually do judo, you don't actually understand what's happening there. It's really easy to look at it and be like, "Yeah, this stuff's not going to work for our sport." Um, when in reality, it's very useful for our sport. Um,
I think that's just the recovery. Like, being able to manage your foot position is 3/4 of the time, like your follow through on the throw. That is some of the most important thing because that's what keeps you up. Like,
yes,
knowing how to catch yourself in that throw so you don't go down with them is just that's just a little tweak that we have to do to it.
yeah, and a lot of it is, it. This isn't easy to learn. You just have to do it a bunch. But there's a certain point once you've thrown for a while, I can normally feel a point where the person has gotten enough past his feet without getting his feet back under him that he is not going to recover. And I let go at that point and just focus on slipping his grip and making sure my feet stay stable.
Hmm.
Um, and that point, real, I mean, there's no easy way to say it. You just have to do it a bunch of times
Oh
until you
yeah.
feel it. But that is pretty much the biggest thing. Is just realizing I don't need to complete this throw like I would need to do in judo, and I don't need to like go. I don't want to land in a dominant position like I would in wrestling. Like at this point, I can just let them stumble to the ground, and I've won.
So I'm really glad that we were able to sit down and have this talk. I'm glad that we were able to, like, hash some things out. I think that there are some things that we should be going in a direction with in the United States in our training, in our technique classes, and our skill
Absolutely.
classes. It's not all just Pell work. It's not all just swinging axes and stuff like that. We have to work on the grapple. We need to work on being able to escape, being able to maintain movement and be free to do things while also having control of somebody. Being able to check the field, knowing your field awareness and everything else like that. I think that is extremely important to things that we're missing sometimes in the American meta.
Yeah, and if I could give advice to people who are watching this, if you want to go out and do this, say your team needs to work on their grappling, whatever, you don't necessarily need to go out and start learning judo. You don't necessarily need to go out and find a wrestling coach.
No.
If you can, that's better. I mean, if you can, that's awesome. Like if you've got the time to do that and train for steel, fucking do that and train for steel. But if nothing else, you can learn from watching some videos. But I want you just to be every practice, there should be at least maybe 8 to 10 rounds, 1 minute wrestling. Your only objective is to put the other person on the ground and stay standing, just wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to do that every one of your practices, your team will see a massive gain. It learns, sumo has so much control, like learning to take center line, learning how to throw someone around, learning how to feel someone's body weight, and if they're coming too hard into you, knowing to turn and be able to throw them.
Oh my god,
Those are all
watching sumo videos is fun,
yes,
and
yes.
watching technique videos about sumo is hilarious.
Have you ever watched? I'm not going to remember his name, but there's like a tiny European guy who did sumo for a
Oh
while and was
yeah.
really good. He was like a
Mm-hmm.
judoka. It's so much fun to watch.
I watched a 400-pound man spin on the ball of his pinky toe, and throw a man, like, pivot on the pinky toe ball and throw another 400-pound man out of the ring, and he won.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
in the middle of being thrown, he shifted his weight and rolled on that pinky toe, and he pitched the guy. I'm like, how the fuck did he do that? So, everybody who's watching, I want to thank you for watching this, checking this out. Me and Brady are going to do a couple more talks. We're definitely going to do a live stream at some point in time. Keep your eye on the channel. We got all kinds of things going on. Check out the Warlord Academy. Check out the Knights Hall. They've got all kinds of different training programs, different things coming down the pipeline. There'll be links in the description below. My Linktree's down there. Thank you, Brett, for hanging out.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
We're going to do the thing, man. Be easy.
Let's do it.
Everybody,
Awesome.
get vicious. Get the fuck out.